Hello, people out there in podcast land and videocast land. Welcome to another session of Simon Says. Hopefully, it's Simon asks more questions than he says. Two great guests for us again today. A good friend of mine has been a great friend for ages. A man who's been an AFL footballer. He's a motivational speaker. Is a successfully recovered addict and a mental health advocate, and has set up his own foundation in Regain Life Focus. Would you welcome Mark Eustice? Mark, good to see you.
Thanks for your kind introduction, Simon.
Oh, thank you, mate. Now I'm going to call. We know you as Mark Eustice, but I know you as Wally, and I'm going to call you Wally to make it easier for me, but also easier because our other guest is Marcus, and I don't want Mark and Marcus to get mixed up. But we have now. What about this? Now I want to talk some interesting stuff here, Wally, because he's started off as a freestyle skier, so that's mad enough to start with. Being involved in winter games, he's a cliff diver, he's a stuntman, but also more importantly, he's become an author, a filmmaker. He's really big on having people look after their health. And he's got a great motto I want to talk about. Would you welcome the freestyle Olympic athlete in Marcus Lovett? Marcus, welcome.
G'day. Thanks for having me, Simon.
That's really good. Now, I just want to put this in, and we can all show our muscles, right? So I said, I've got more hair than you two, but you two look fitter than me. So let's all show our muscles. Let's put our muscles up, Ollie. Put your muscles up.
I better get closer.
Mine aren't big, but mine move. All right, there we go.
There we go. 58.
Oh, no, I was going to show more, but I better keep it close.
Steady. Just a little bit of the time,
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you. That's good. We're in the right mood. It's about some information, but also about having fun. So now, Wally, I don't want the big story because I know the big story.
Yeah,
but how are you at the moment as far as your mental health?
Mate, look, I'm really good. Obviously, COVID hasn't helped. Like a lot of other people have been horrendous for them. Because what I found is there's so many people that sort of pre-COVID didn't have any mental health issues. Now they've got them, and I was probably had them beforehand. So look, I've had my moments, but look, but at the moment, look, I'm compared to what I'm really good.
Can I just ask you that, mate? Because I want you to give me the number. You have been clean and sober for how many years?
I was now 14 years and 2 weeks.
Oh, it's fantastic, mate. It's great. And I want to talk...
Anniversary a couple of weeks ago, yeah.
Beauty, mate. I'll talk a little bit about...
Congratulations.
He's fantastic, mate. It's great. Now, Marcus, so he's going well. Now, you started as a freestyle skier. Is that right? That's where it started.
That's where it all started. Basically, I finished high school, didn't have a clue what I wanted to do with my life, but I love skiing and I love traveling. So I kind of just went to America, got a job working nights, and then I just ski all day, every day. And the new hip happening sport at the time was freestyle skiing.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be so part of it. You know, I loved it. I used to watch these guys on TV when I was a kid. And then when I finally got to America and I'm kind of in the mecca of freestyle skiing, I just was just so into it. And then I got good enough and started competing. And then, on the Australian team, and then traveling World Cup, and then finally to the Olympics in '88.
Fantastic. And Wally, would you say that you started footy because the same thing, you're just involved in it?
Mate, all I wanted to do was play AFL footy. That was it. That was plan A. I had no plan B. which, as you well know, that was plan A. Yeah, mate, all my life, that's all I wanted to do was play footy. Yeah.
Now, the bit I like is you started with Essendon, and tell us about how connected you were to Essendon.
Yeah, a little bit of a connection to Essendon. I was born in Essendon. I went to Essendon State School. I went to Essendon State School. I played in Essendon. Played for the Essendon Little League. I played for the Essendon Under-19s. I played for the Essendon Reserves. I played for the Essendon Seniors. And in 1984, my dad was the mayor of Essendon. So got a little bit sort of something happened there with Essendon. A bit of a heart's there. Hence, left.
No, mate, that's great. You say that's really part of Essendon. And I want to talk about how people change in their opportunities. So, Marcus, you go from being a Olympic freestyle ski in this new, evolving, almost developing sport, and then you become, is that right, a cliff diver?
Well, what happened was it's all part of the training. So at the time,
right. Wally, can you remember any training of us jumping off cliffs?
No, that wasn't sort of part of the pre-season, I would have thought.
But, it's funny, at the time, out of the top 10 freestyle skiers in the world, or freestyle aerialists, because that's what I specialised in, 8 of them were Canadians. And those 8 Canadians all did high diving in the summer months, or, in the off-season when they weren't training. And it was another way of making some money because there were high dive shows all across America and throughout Europe. And so I just kind of went, hey, if the best in the world do it, that's what I'm going to do.
So we're talking about jumping off a cliff into the water?
Yes. Just
no
like,
no ropes.
No ropes, no nothing like that. I mean, when I first learned, a friend of mine who was a Canadian freestyle skier, and he was doing a show in La Ronde in Montreal. And he basically said, man, I can get you a job. Just learn a few dives and I'll get you a job, somewhere with the Great American High Dive team in the States. So I did a little bit of training, and he was diving off this really big tower into this huge lake that was really deep. And it just seemed quite, I don't know, it didn't push the boundaries too far. It was quite easy and it was within my comfort zone. Anyway, suddenly he gets me this job down in Washington, D.C. at this water park. And so I'm on a plane, I fly straight down there. The guy picks me up at the airport. He takes me to the park saying, we'll start you diving within the show in a couple of days, but first come along and have and see the show. Now, this show was diving into a pool that was 24 feet in diameter. So that's, what is that in? It was just 7 meters in diameter, just over 7 meters in diameter. It was 10 feet deep, and they had this little rickety ladder that went up 25 meters. And you'd climb up, and they do this dive show where they're landing in this thing. You have to 10 feet to stop in. You're traveling at speeds of over, up to almost 100 k's an hour, and you've got to stop in 10 feet. And I watched this show, and then they do this jump called the mass dive. And it's where 5 divers are in the air at the same time, all landing in the pool. And I'm watching this, and I'm just going, I'm not doing this. I got to get out of here. And I'm thinking, just what am I doing here? But they'd already paid my contract. I was already there. And I was like, I can't say no. And man, my heart was just beaten out of its chest while I was watching this. Anyway, the next day they said, all right, we'll fit you into the show. We'll do some easy stuff to start with. And then, you'll build up in the show. And as I did over a couple of months, I just got used to the height. I got used to the depths. I got used to the crowd. I was doing fire dives where I'd set myself on fire and dive off from 10 meters. And, you kind of you learn it all on the job. But I mean, that first day watching, I was just panicking.
Yeah, no, look, that's fantastic. Now, there's a lightness in this, and I want to try and keep it light, but there's some deep moments I want to go into, because you're talking about highs and lows. Now, Wally, you've been clean and sober for 14 years, but what's the lowest you got to?
The lowest? Mate, the lowest I was the day I walked into rehab, Simon. You've heard a couple of times.
Still gets me every time.
When I was lucky enough that I was on massive benders, 3-day benders, and all the rest of it, doing every drug and everything I could possibly do, and finally got some help and support to get me into rehab, by this stage, I was broken the whole lot. So, and I actually said yes, I'll go. And then probably the lowest point was I got picked up to go, and we went into got to Ivanhoe Clinic. And
just so people know, like you had been on a 3-day bender before this, hadn't you?
Yeah, before, yeah.
How much? Just give us how much alcohol and how much cocaine you were taking one day.
Oh God, I'd start.
Just give us show us the pattern.
Okay, yeah, I'd get up in the morning and have 4 lines of Coke, 4 shots of vodka for breakfast. Then I'd go and do a couple of hours work. I'd go to a pub somewhere, wherever I was, The first call I'd make is I'm a drug dealer. He'd come to the pub where I was, drop me off a bag of Coke, sometimes two. I'd sit there and drink and make a few phone calls. Then I'd go then throughout the day, I'd just move on to pub and just keep drinking and doing drugs. Then finally I'd get to my last pub, which I'd be near my place. I'd stay there till the end of the night. Usually a drug dealer drop by again, give me another gram of Coke. So I'd stay there till stumps. I'd buy a bottle of vodka, go home, I'd drink the bottle of vodka, have the bag of Coke, leave enough vodka for breakfast in the morning, enough Coke for breakfast in the morning, take a handful of sleeping pills, go to sleep, and wake up the next day to the whole thing over again.
And that wasn't 1 or 2 times a week, was it? That was
pretty much every day. Yeah.
And so you got to the stage where somebody said you want to go to rehab. And what did you say to that? Why did you say yes?
Barry Mitchell rang me, good mate, Sydney Swans teammate, and he rang me at an opportune time where I'd just been out and for 3 days, and I was just absolutely smashed, sick of the life. I was tired, I was exhausted. And he said, mate, I want to take you to a doctor. And I said, yeah, okay. He said, I'll pick you up tomorrow. He took me to, at that time, the Carlton Football Club doctor, which was Dr. Ben Barassi. And Ben just sat down, never seen him before. He sat down in front of me, he said, mate, do you want to go to rehab? And I said, yeah, I'll go. But I had nothing at this stage. I was tapped out. So Mary Williams, Greg Williams' wife, Diesel, they went about to all my clubs and raised the money for me to get there. But it was like 28 grand. I had nothing. So it took a couple of weeks. So, of course, the 2 weeks I kept going. I said I was going to rehab and I was going to stop doing drugs. So at the time. And then finally I got the call. I said, look, Mary rang me and said, listen, we've got your bed, we've got the money. You've got to be home on Sunday at a certain time and we'll pick you up and take you there. So I just went on this massive last hurrah bender, just drank anything any drug I could possibly get my hands on and drink, everything. And sort of got home and that night, I remember I got home that morning, had my last, there was a couple of stubbies in the fridge. I knocked those off, bit of vodka, last lot of Coke. Went and packed a suitcase. For some reason, there was a brand new footy in the cupboard, so I grabbed the footy and put it under my arm. And I got picked up and went to rehab. It was a mate of mine, Mitzi, Peter Metropolis, good mate of mine. And he dropped me off at that time. It was Sunday, which was visiting day, and so the front entrance was shut. So I had to go back through a back courtyard, and it's visiting day, so all the people's family and loved ones were in there. And it starts to get hard already, Simon.
That's all right, mate. You get through it.
I haven't done it for 12 months.
I know you can. And I want to link this to you, Marcus, in a moment. You keep going. And
then you said I wasn't allowed to swear either, but we might have to do.
You might have. You can we'll do
one. And so then
it's okay. It's in context.
Okay, then and I sort of got out and gave Mitzi a hug and grabbed my bag and put my ball footy under my arm. And there's about 50 people in the courtyard, and I had to go through this back gate. And always gets me.
Keep going, mate. Keep going.
And I opened up the gate, and all at one time, everybody just turned around and looked at me. And I just at that time, I just fell to my knees, and I just said, "Fuck!" Everything hit me. And I just said, "Fuck! What have I done to my body? How I've abused it? What have I done to my friends, my family? How could I have done this to myself?" And I would just and I just couldn't believe it. It was like just this big lightning bolt hit me all at once, and I walked in there, and they took me for a medical check, and I was like I had purple lips and a grey face, and they said that, you know, if I hadn't got in there, that I got the help and got in there, I probably would have about 2-3 days to live. My system was starting to shut down. So,
and just to repeat, mate, how long ago was that?
14 years now.
14 years. Now, it's a very powerful story, and it's an amazing story. And I will talk a little bit, give you a little bit of a breather, Wally. But Marcus, I know you. Part of what you do, you've done filmmaking, you've written a book, and we'll talk about them. But you talk about a healthy body, fulfilled mind, flourishing emotions, and soaring spirit. And I think it's really nice to see something with somebody like Mark at that end, and to see him at the other end. What do you think about it?
Man, I was listening to you, Mark, and I'm just going, how intense. Now, I had my bit of experience, and it was nothing like that. When I was living in Colorado, there were only 3 types of people that lived there. People that used to deal drugs, people that deal drugs, and people that are going to deal drugs.
Oh,
and I remember I went through that whole stage, and I was, you know, coke and mushrooms and all that sort of thing, because everyone did it. And it was funny, I was only 17 at the time, because I moved there quite young. Or maybe I turned 18. And then one night, partying all night, it was sunrise. I'm walking home, and I just remember my nose bleeding, and these people all looking at me, and they all knew what it was. And I just went, man, I'm going to be stuck in Colorado. It's a beautiful place, but I didn't want to be stuck there. I'm going to be stuck here the rest of my life if I don't say no to the free stuff. And so that's the thing. It wasn't so much a chemical addiction. It was that social addiction where the people are coming up to you and they're offering you and, yeah, man, let's party. And you do some. And then you go, oh, it's my turn now. I better go buy some and share it all around. And you just keep that cycle going. It was saying no to the free stuff. And, you know, and I had my realization a lot earlier, and I just went, bang, that's it. I just stopped and was focused on skiing. But that intensity, man, that you went through. And what I'm about is holistic health and self-esteem probably is, to me, is the most important thing in the world. And to let yourself get down to that low self-esteem of you know, constantly wanting to get away from yourself with alcohol and drugs, and then coming back and now I'm sure you are enough. You are worthy.
Yeah, I think so.
And you went through, but what people think is amazing is that here you had this football career, that you were this star athlete, and that, you know, you've got it all together, but you can still be world champion and have a low self-esteem.
Yeah. And I think the
mental health.
Yeah, the other thing, Wally, just, you know, clarity with you, because you talk about the self-esteem. Wally, you had, well, you didn't know then, but you had bipolar.
Yeah, I had bipolar and depression, so I basically played a football career with it, and I was undiagnosed for 25 years. I was at the stage at the end of my football career, before I'd get and play a game, I'd sit in the toilets and cry my eyes out, and then run out in front of 40,000 people and try and play football, and then just come off the ground just exhausted, not only physically and strange mentally as well, but just 100 times worse. And
emotionally.
Oh, yeah, and emotionally
that would be
just horrendous. And I just have to go out and warm up with my mates and go, and the pressure and everything of performing and that, and you know, and I retired when I was like 28 and had 2 years to run in a contract. I was up in Sydney. I was on like 80 grand a year or something like that those days in the 80s. I was going all right, and I retired. I just couldn't go on with it any longer. I just couldn't take the abuse from the coaches, the stress of playing, and just everything. And at the time, it was in a time, Marcus, where it was, you know, oh, mate, stop feeling sorry for yourself. You know, when you know, down all the time. People was an ongoing joke. Oh, Wally, you up today? You're down. Are you going to? It was like, it was even went to this. You know, my mates would go to the pub and they say, "Are you going to bring us down tonight? Are you going to keep us up? You know, yeah. What sort of mood you in?" You know, and I just said nothing. You know, and then finally after rehab, this is after rehab. 25, because I was like early 40s. So I mean, when I finally got there, 41, 42, and they got to a psychiatrist and diagnosed me with everything, and then spent basically 40 odd weeks in and out of mental health institutions, ECT treatments and psychiatrists. I've been to my psychiatrist today. I've got a psychologist as well. I take medication. I've had ups and downs. It basically took me, I couldn't work for 8 years. I was incapable. My body had to heal. And finally, I just sort of got myself together with a job at just stacking shelves at Woolworths for a couple of years, just to get myself. And it was the best thing I ever did, because what it did, because I was basically living as a hermit. I couldn't talk to anyone, couldn't see anyone. Simon, I couldn't go out, I couldn't engage. And then I got to the stage I'd go out for 20 minutes, maybe round to Simon's for a barbecue or something. I'd go home, and it went on a bit. And I finally got this job just stacking out of Woolworths. I was working 6 days a week, shift work, cold winter nights and all that. And it was the best thing I ever did, because it got me out and about, interacting with people like there was, the whole lot. And, I had to do a job. I had to be there on a certain time. I had to do it. I was getting paid. I got some, which was handy. And in that 17 months I did it, I never missed a day. I never missed a shift. I was never late. And then, Simon, I was lucky enough, I was on open mic. I was on that, and I had a few inquiries about doing some speaking things. I had no idea for all this. And Simon said, we might go, and he took me out to do this breakfast thing. And he interviewed me, and they sort of got a bit of a standing ovation at the end. I think it must have been the interviewer anyway. So I went back to Woolies, and I sort of, after a couple of months, I'd sort of finished a shift, and it was like this. It wasn't as bad as the walking into the moment into rehab, but I got a bit of I said, you're out of here. You've done your thing. It's time to move on to your next step in life, which was going out doing speaking. And Simon said, okay, this is like the following February 2015. He said, okay, let's go. We'll get out there. I quit my job and everything. We'll get out and do some jobs and that. And I didn't get a job for about 3 or 4 months.
Thanks very much. Thanks. You're going to blame me.
I'm going to go back to Woolies. 3 months or so. I said, mate, what have you done to me? I've had a few since then.
No, that's good. Mate. That's good. But I reckon it's a good story. But I think with you, Marcus, like you've made the film a way of marvelousness, and also wrote a book about what ate my mum. And you talk about the holistic health, and I think it's a really interesting mix there, because we've seen Wally go from the low to the, now he's an advocate, great advocate for mental health, and I'll talk about Regain Life Focus a little bit better. But Marcus, and I'm throwing a lot at you at the same time, but my Latin's not as good as it used to be. But cogito ergo sum mirabilia, I think therefore I am wonderful. I saw that on your website.
No. I think therefore I am marvelous.
Yeah, that's
wonderful. It can use both ways.
I put it in the translator. That said wonderful, so it's not a good translator.
It's funny. I was just listening to your language, Mark, and to me, if everyone had a high self-esteem, if everyone had a healthy self-esteem or liked themselves, there would be no problems in the world. And when you were just saying you were called in to speak and you spoke and they were applauding you, going, man, you were fantastic. And you said that, then straight away you took that away from yourself and you said, it must have been the presenter put me up, or, put me in a job or whatever. And I was just going, that's classic, talking yourself down when you've just done good. It's funny. My parents were kind of pop psychologists. My dad was a chiropractor, one of the first chiropractors in the country. And, he was a witch doctor back in those days in the 70s and stuff. And, I was always hassled at school because my dad was this quack. But my parents, they would do all these motivational seminars, would go to, Wayne Dyer would be coming to Australia, they'd go. So, I was brought up on this and about having a healthy self-worth.
Yeah.
And, like as you said, to be a great athlete, you don't have to have a healthy self-worth. You just have to have a big ego.
Yes.
And an ego isn't necessarily a high self-esteem, or narcissism isn't necessarily high self-esteem.
Yeah.
So I mean, my shtick is how self-esteem is so important, because if you like yourself, you'll look after yourself, you'll look after your environment around you, and you'll look after people around you. It's on-flowing. That's like that idea of looking after yourself first in the morning before the kids. I go do my exercise, do everything, I want, where it's just me. So I can then look after all the people around me that I have to. But
it's a really good. Go on, Wally.
I just quickly, mate. But now when Simon and I work together, it's all me. So
There you go.
it's all about me.
Very good, mate. Very good.
Thank you.
The other thing, never lose your sense of humour. That's
Very good idea.
And I was going to say, oh no, that's right. When I do a lot of business coaching, and it comes personal business coaching, because it's very hard not to talk about your personal life if you're talking about your business, because they interlink with each other. But I love your viewpoint there, Marcus, because I keep saying to people, you are your best resource. If you don't look after you first, how you can look after all? And we look at all these other people and go, well, this person can help me and this person can help me. Yeah, but what about this person helping me?
You know, and it got a bad rap back in the 80s. It was all about the me. I think it was the 80s or late 70s, early 80s. It was all about me. And everyone's going, what a selfish society we live in. It's being selfish when you concentrate on you. But when you get on the plane and they give you the safety talk, it says, when the oxygen masks fall, fit yourself first before you help others. Because if you're blacked out on the floor, you're going to be of no use to anyone and just be tripping people up. Yeah. So yes, you have to look after yourself first.
Yeah, especially if you're in the emergency exit. People always say to me, will you be able to open that door? I said, don't worry, I'll open that door and I'll be out at first.
That's leadership. That's leadership. Be out there first.
They'll know where to go. No, but I'm very, again, Marcus, that body, mind, emotions, and spirit. I'm really big on that, because that's the 4 parts of your health you need to look at. And we don't, and they're all interconnected, as you know. Mark talks about, and you talk about, especially men, you know. But in the modern world, look after yourself. That's not being selfish. That's being realistic. Don't be hard on yourself. Don't be soft on yourself. Be honest with yourself.
It's altruistic. If you look after yourself first, that is the most altruistic thing we can do for our society. Instead of being blacked out on the floor or being a burden to, you know, the government or whatever.
Yeah, no, look, that's a really good point. So Wally, just on that, very good segue. I like segues, but a very good point there, because you're taking it from looking after yourself, and then you set up, and it's still on a journey, but you set up a foundation called Regain Life Focus.
I have.
And a little bit about that is my understanding, and I'm supposed to know about this a little.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
It's about people whose focus is all over the place, whether it's drug, whether it's fitness, whether it's food, whether it's alcohol, whatever. It's all over the place, and you're getting people to focus back down there. Is that right? Back to the main thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Simon, really, to concentrate on your mental health and addiction. That's what it's all about with different programs. It's encouraging people to, get help with mental health, with psychology, et cetera. And so at the moment we're pretty well set up, ready to go. So hope once we can get out there with the COVID and all that. So it's it's exactly right. Regain Life Focus. So you just got to look after yourself.
Well, that's right, mate.
It's itself. So with our different programs we're looking at doing at the moment. So and obviously us where we've done together ICE meth presentations, with my story, New Motivational, and then PowerPoint on what ICE does to you, with what they put in it, to what it does to your brain, to all that sort of thing, which really, it's jaw-dropping to people. Like, it's just an evil drug, So that's one of the aspects that we do, that breaking the ice. That's really at the moment. Look, I just love what I do. I'm passionate about speaking. I love helping people. I just want to, and if I can, I was lucky. I'm lucky because I did play a bit of footy, so I can get on a radio show or something like that, and things like this. So many people that can't, and so if I can be an advocate and speak for those people, because at the moment there's someone sitting at home by themselves that and they've got no one to speak to, no one to talk to, and and they have really bad thoughts. And look, at the moment there's more suicides than COVID deaths. So if I can get out there and sort of preach a bit, because I'm in a blessed situation where I can do this sort of stuff. Everybody So I'm just I just love doing it and what I do. So
good, mate. You've done actually. Yeah, I think you've probably outdone me. We'll make it a competition. I've spoken a few times overseas, but you've actually done the big US. You've done the talking. You've had you in the conference in America, mate. So you've done that.
Yeah, I did one in Detroit last year, and that was pretty good, and it was awesome. Actually, it was called the actual event was a Heroes Round Table. It was sort of like the TED Talk sort of thing. So I was kindly enough to be invited to do that over there, and unfortunately, this year I was hitting the big time. I was going to New York, San Francisco, Times Square at the Western Hotel, Manhattan for the New York, but obviously that didn't happen.
That's right. But I was going to say to both of you, but 2021 is already starting to look like an interesting year. People are going to start to. We know people are going to get out. I've had somebody already talk to me about what they want to do in next year in their business, etc. So I would say, well, you probably get another chance over there in New York. And Marcus, for you, what do you see the future for you? Because I wanted to talk a little bit about the stuntman too, because that came out of left field. I can understand the skiing. That's fine. I know, they say football's a mad when you put your head over the ball and somebody knocks it off. The aerial skiing is when you can break both your knees and your neck in the same time. And then you explain the cliff diving. That's fine. But then the stuntman, and you're in the Matrix. Is this true?
Yes. Well, I mean, because once you learn how to flip and twist, and that's what freestyle skiing is, then it's just learning the apparatus. So once I knew I had that aerial sense, I could use it on a cliff dive, I could use it on a trampoline, I could use it. And then I know about heights and falling. And back in the old days of stunt work, there was a lot of high falls.
Yeah.
And I had no problem with heights and airbags. And so that's why I was called in. I came from an acrobatic background. And at the time when they were getting new stuntmen in, they were all the movies being made were period pieces. So it was all rodeo riders. And those guys were hopeless at acrobatics. And, they knew how to ride a horse or a bull, and that's stuff I'm scared of.
They know how to fall off. They know how to fall off awkwardly.
Yeah, they know how to fall off, but they needed acrobatics. And so I was just there at the right time. They go, yeah, we need someone with coordination. And so that's how I kind of fell into the stunt job, and worked on a few things. And then on the Matrix, I was in between seasons. This is when I was filming the Snow Show, and I had a bit of time off, and I just called him up. I just called up the stunt coordinator. I said, hey, I'm free. You got anything? He goes, yeah, we might have something. Next thing, I'm up there, and and it's the biggest film I've ever worked on. Yeah. And it's an amazing production. There were lots of different stuntmen. So you had the American stunt team, which were the doubles for the main actors. Then you had the Hong Kong wire team that designed all the stunts with all the cables and wires. And then we had the Australian stunt team who were to try everything out before the big guys got hurt. So we would be sent to a room and go, all right, we want to do this stunt where a guy gets thrown into a pole and the pole bends. Figure it out because we don't want to hurt our main stunt guys. So we'd spend a day just like throwing each other against this pole and getting it to bend properly.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Now, look, I wasn't joking when I said you're both looking very fit. I'm a little bit jealous on that. I'm a little bit older than both of you. But now, Wally, just to scare people who are listening or watching, what time do you get up and train in the morning?
Oh, look, I'm up at 3:34, I suppose, and
I'm glad, Marcus. I'm glad you did that same reaction.
About then, and sort of sit down and have a bit of a cup of tea and watch the news for 15, 20 minutes, and I'm into it. I've got weights here and home and whatever. So,
but wait a minute. What time do you go to bed?
Well, COVID sort of knocked me around a bit. I was sort of out of whack a bit, but I normally, it's 8, 9 o'clock. But
okay.
I'm all over the place at the moment with sleep patterns.
But before, it's like beforehand. But you were 5:30 in the gym, and you were.
Yeah. I don't. Well, as a rule, normal. I'd be up at 4:45, 4:30 at the gym. Usually do whatever weights, classes, all that sort of thing. See what was on, and so that'd be it and go to bed or whatever. So that's a normal day, and I'd usually train again in the afternoon or sort of late morning again. So a couple of times a day. And lots of walking at the moment. So, I've been having a go. I've already trained 3 times. I was up at about 3 this morning. I'd already done a date. I was having dinner at like 11:00 this morning. I had dinner.
Mark, again, fitness. What's the fitness regime you're doing now? You still an early riser or a late?
No, I'm not an early riser. My most important thing in fitness, it always starts with conscious breathing. So my day and sleep, 8 hours sleep every night, to me is just so important. You know, I can get by with 7 hours and sometimes a 6 hour night if I had to get some work done. But, you know, the sleep to me, it's more important to get sleep than it is to get exercise. But so I always get up around 6:30, so I'm in bed around 10:30. And I basically just wear my bathers and I go down to the bay and I do some breathing exercises, do some handstands, and then I go for a swim and then come home. And that little routine takes 15 minutes. I don't push it, and that's all I do. It's the ride the bicycle down, the breathing, and, you know, and the swim.
Okay, that's good. So that's.
I suppose too. So I'm just wondering on a lot of mine's got to do with my mental health. Just really, it's what I need. It's my go-to. Is exercise. It just makes me feel so much better. And, you know, the fitter I am and everything. I mean, at my lowest, I was 115, 16 kilos. I've lost like 30 kilos, and so at my lowest point, when you would go on this process, not only do you drugs, you got to come down and whatever they are, then you're on all these pills and you eat and then all of a sudden you blow up. So I had to have a massive makeover, and that's happened in the last 3 years or so, Simon.
It's really, it's not.
I've lost I don't know, 18, 19, 20 kilos and built some sort of a body of some sort.
No, mate, no, you don't. Well, you put it in the calendar photos, mate. I've seen.
And the eating as well, all that. So yeah.
Exactly, and drinking lots of water, and
all that.
And I totally understand that.
Cups of tea and water.
Getting physical though, and the whole endorphins thing, and that's why I just try and incorporate it in my life. If I need to go to the shops, I jump on the bike instead of driving the car. Yeah. Or if I just try, and handstands is because I come from that acrobatic background. Yeah. I get so much from that, and you can do them anywhere. I just flip them pancakes, do handstands in between.
But it's all that. It's interesting. One of the things that as you get older, people have said that you lose your balance. And you do the old one at my age, if you stand on one leg and close your eyes, you just disappear into the sideline. So that concept of keeping your balance is really interesting. And this is for, not yet, but I'm getting into this where just the concept of getting down on the ground and getting up again. Because people get older and they can't do it because they haven't practiced it for 10, 15 years. So all that balancing stuff and sort of just knowledge of your body a bit better is becoming more and more important too.
I'm so terrified of losing my ability that because I used to do standing back salts, and I still do standing back salts. And I'm scared of losing that ability.
I was going to say, we'll ask you to do one, but you might knock something off the shelves there.
Actually, no, it's a bit tough. And I like to warm up. I'm 56 now, so I need to warm up a little bit. I can't just, the old days, I could be drunk in a bar and chucking them off the court.
Can I ask you a question, please, Mark?
Yeah,
do you like you're shopping in Woolies or something, you can feel you have to do a handstand or something in the middle of the street in something, and you just have to drop one in front of...
Sometimes I do get that. I'm waiting and I'm bored. Like if I'm waiting for someone and they're late, I'll start doing handstands because it's hilarious. It's like your endorphins. I just love doing it because it does so much.
Yeah, that link between the body, the mind, the emotions, the spirit is that there's all those chemicals that we actually develop and use when we do exercise, and a lot of people forget that. And it's really interesting you say that, Wally. You talk about your well-being is very much a part of that is the exercise you do.
Yeah.
So it's the good feelings you get out of during and afterwards that are really, really important.
And I just wanted to say, and you were saying before, Mark, about back in the 80s, where it wasn't a cool thing to express your emotions. No. And that now how important that is. And, and that's what I'm saying. I put emotions just so much into that mix that you feel emotions and you express emotions and not bottling them in.
Probably one thing I forgot to mention, and what we do, obviously, I just love getting up on the stage and speaking now, and but I just encourage everybody to just get help. Go and get help. Speak to somebody. Speak to your next door neighbour, whoever, whatever. You just got to get help if you're not feeling well, etc., etc. And then that problems just I can't emphasise it enough.
Yeah, because a lot of people do.
Yeah.
You're very good, mate. We feel like we can't be vulnerable. We can't show vulnerability to people. But you need that. You got to look after it. Number one is going to seek help and going to find. So it's a very good point. Very good one. So look, guys, really interesting mix. So it's really good talking about you. Well, Marcus, you made a number of films, I think, and you've written. You're an author. You're going to come out with another book or another movie.
Oh, look, I'm always putting out content. That was after my kind of skiing career. It was about making a TV show, which I did for 15 years, The Snow Show.
Snow Show,
And it's all about just still making content, And then from that documentary about my mum and my mum's, who passed away from mesothelioma and asbestos. And so that was more a delve into emotions and how emotions affect our health.
Yeah.
And so it's just a continuation on that. Now I'm kind of just making short films, and because I have that, that little bit of knowledge of filming, I can just use that to get my message out.
Great, that's good, mate. So, Wally, your website is this. So we've got markeustice.com.au.
No, we've got regainlifefocus.com.au.
Regainlifefocus.com.au. That's good.
Yep,
I know about my one. And what about you, Marcus?
Marvelousness.com.
I love it.
Right, that now.
Have you got like uniforms or anything?
I'm trying to be a bit more relaxed now. I don't want to be uptight,
What is it? The superheroes.
That's magnificent, marvelous.
And it's magnificent, marvelous. The superheroes.
Have you just sort of put that out on the, you want to sell that to somebody? Because somebody might pay a lot of money for that.
Well, maybe, everyone has a price, they say. But no, it's funny. It came from is that I got called once, Marvelous Marcus.
Oh, yes, beautiful. Yeah, beautiful.
And then it was like Marcus the Magnificent was this magician. So it was this marvelous. And I thought, I want this word. I want to use marvelous as my word, but it had already been used. So I just put a ness on the end of it, marvelousness. That's all. It's the only word available.
I'll just hit you with a quick one, Simon. Sorry. Years and years and years ago, I was standing at a pub, and everybody used to say, "Where's Wally?" I said, "Where is he? Where's Wally?" A mate of mine came up to me one night and said, "Mate, we've got to do a painting on Where's Wally." Seriously, 2 weeks later, all these books started coming out. Where's Wally? I thought, word of a lie. And this is back in the 80s, and we still talk about it now. And whoever's got it is on fire.
Look, guys, thanks very much for your time. As I said, I try and keep these to a reasonable time, rather, because we go on forever.
Yeah, sorry.
Wally, regainlifefocus.com.au, marvelousness.com for the people there. Make sure you promote these people. Look, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your outlook. Wally, I always said to you before, it's just fantastic the way from what you went through and where you've come and what you're trying to do and what you're trying to promote. And for Marcus, it sounds like you're on the same path where we're looking for a better place, better people, better world. And I think that's fantastic.
Exactly. Thanks for having me on, Simon.
Thanks, mate. Good to meet you, mate.
Go ahead. Yeah, good to meet you, Mark. We'll see you somewhere around.
Yeah, hopefully. I've got to catch up and have a coffee with you, mate.
Hey, if you're ever on the peninsula, call me.
Happy days. Next week, I'll be down there.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Good on you.
Thanks, Simon.
Yeah.